Hi guys, this is Skithicon here with a Let's Play of Saya no Uta, or Song of Saya. For those of you unfamiliar with it, Saya no Uta is a visual novel. It's a sort of Lovecraftian horror slash dating sim mashup, which I am incredibly fond of. I would go so far as to say that it's the number one piece of art that affected me most deeply, which, if you are familiar with the game, will make me sound utterly crazy, and if you're not familiar with the game, then by the end of this Let's Play, you will think I'm utterly crazy. So, first off, I should issue a content warning before we really get into this. I've heard a guy who was, 30 or something say he didn't feel like he was old enough to play this game, and I think that this is probably the number one most disturbing thing I've seen, so if you are fond of horror, you're gonna have a great time. If you're not, then you're not. There's a, let's see. There is a lot of sexual content. I will be censoring that since this is YouTube and all. There is also just a lot of sadness, a lot of feels. It's rather nice. Very sweet romance story. If you're a student of abnormal psych or anything related to that, you're probably going to have an especially great time. So with all that rambling out of the way, let's get started on Saya no Uta. Stories a work of fiction, medical procedures and conditions are all imaginary and unrelated to actual medicine. I love those vocals. Something, something, the wriggling lump of flesh burbles. Roar. Three such creatures are sitting around the table in front of me, slurping filthy sludge from their cups as they trade whines, growls, and sounds that I can hardly describe. I hope you guys like my voice, by the way, since this being a visual novel, you will be hearing hours of it, I imagine. By listening carefully, I'm able to grasp the gist of their conversation. This allows me to barely avoid arousing their suspicion. I can stay out of it as long as they're just talking among themselves, but I can't ignore them if they speak to me. However they may look, they are my friends, apparently. I want to deny it, of course, but I gave up on that a long time ago. Each night I went to sleep wishing that this would turn out to be a nightmare. Yet, each morning I awoke to find that the world was just as horribly warped as it was the day before. I have to live while blending in, while acting like one of them. Just as I've done these past 3 months, I will continue to do for the rest of my life. If any of you guys speak Japanese, I'm curious if you can actually make out what these creatures are saying. I'd be interested to hear about that in the comments. Judging by its tone, this one must be Koji, and the one next to him, squealing more than the others, is probably Omi. Which means that the one next to me must be Yo, though I can no longer see any trace of her once refined features. I try my best to ignore the rotten stench of the excrement that issues from her quivering flesh. This shit's fucking terrifying, isn't it? I love it. Everything has changed completely. While everything appears different to me, my relationship to the world alone is the same. These creatures were part of the same college club as me, and we used to be pretty good friends. We even went skiing every winter break. Now, these are but fond memories of days that will never return. If only everyone, including my friends, had forgotten about me, I might have been able to disconnect myself from the world. It would have been comforting, in comparison, to believe that I had been abducted by aliens and taken to a different planet or something. However, this is definitely Japan onto planet Earth, and this is the city where I was born and raised, the society that I was a part of for 20-odd years, but I, and I alone, can no longer see it that way. I no longer recognize the world. I have no place to call home. But just then... Hey, Fuminori, one of the flesh lumps says as it swivels its bloodshot eyes towards me. What do you think? About what? I desperately try to suppress my loathing and behave normally, but my hoarse voice ruins the attempt. We're talking about this year's skiing trip. You're coming too, right? A slimy hole near the top of the creature writhes nauseatingly as it vomits some semblance of words. So that must be Koji's head, face, and mouth. Or rather, what I would have seen as such 3 months ago. I don't know. Unable to bring myself to look at it, I avert my eyes and give a neutral answer. You have other plans?
Yeah, listen.
Not really. Koji was one of my best friends, as was everyone else here. They were all precious to me. And one of them had even desired to be more than just friends. How many nights have I spent crying in loneliness, lamenting the friends who no longer exist? In 3 months I cried myself dry, and now there is only loathing left in me. Surrounded by fleshy creatures that I can only assume are Koji, Omi, and Yo, I spend each day trying to act like I always have. If I fail at this, I'll probably be sent back to the hospital. But this time, I'll be locked away forever. No matter what, I mustn't let that happen. Hey, it's not like physical activity could affect your injuries, right? I'm not sure. I'll ask the doctor during my checkup. I'm at my limit. I can't look at them or listen to their terrible voices any longer. Losing my patience, I jump to my feet. Hey, Fuminori. A spray of stringy slime from the cilia wriggling around its voice stalk flies towards me. I try to cover myself, but too late to keep the slime from splattering across my face, lick the yolk of a rotten egg. I'm on the verge of losing it. I want to grab a chair, a desk, anything within reach, and use it to smash the life out of this creature, ending it all. I barely suppress the impulse. I have to avoid arousing their suspicion. However they look to me, this is their world. I'm the outsider here. Like I said, today is my checkup. I have to go. I try to fake a smile, but I'm not sure it works. Reaching into my wallet, I pull out the first bill I find and put it onto the table without looking at it. It's probably enough for the drink I ordered, and I don't care about the change. I just want to get out of here as fast as possible.
それじゃ
Later. I leave, quite literally running for my life. I'm not crazy.
ねえねえ、今度のスキーだけどさ、
Hey, says
今年は
Takahara
どっ
Omi.
かスケートも
Why
遊べ
don't we
ると
go
ころに
somewhere
し
with
ない
skating for this year's ski trip? Tsukuba-yo frowns at the suggestion.
スケート
Skating? Why go to a ski resort to skate?
勘弁してや
Ha,
ってく
give
れ
her
よ
a break, Tsukuba.
こい
She's
つ
been
今
into
そっ
skating
ちにハマってん
recently.
だ
Todo Koji supports Omi with a laugh. Her sudden statements are nothing new, and it's Koji's role as her boyfriend to provide backup. To Yo, they seem like a good match for each other. Sometimes, it makes her jealous.
なんせ近江ってさ
I mean, she
こ
got
の前
started
この
pretty
年に
late.
なって初めてスケートやったん
何よ
Hey, is it so
スケー
strange
トした
I'd
こと
never
な
been
かったの
skating
がそ
before?
んなに不思議？
20歳になって初体験ってのは
I don't think there are many
興味そうそう
first-time
ないんじゃないかな
skaters in their 20s these days.
子供の頃は
I
な
was
ん
kinda
とな
scared
く
when I
怖
was
かっ
little.
たのよ。
Those shoes seemed like knives to me.
なんだか刃物み。
でもいきなりやって滑れたの？大見ちゃんすごくない？
But you were able to just start skating. That's pretty amazing, Gomi-chan. So I'm curious if you guys have already figured out what's going on here. If not, then you'll get the chance to find out soon.
容量はスキーとそう変わるも
It's
んじゃ
not
ないか
very
らな
different from skiing, after
重
all.
心を前に
You
出し
keep
て
your weight
そ
forward
の前の
and
ヘ
use the
リで
angle
コン
of
トロー
the
ルする
shoes
感
to
覚と
steer.
か
コージにそう言われた
That's
もん
what
だ
he
から
said,
さ。
so I took
騙
his
さ
word
れた
for
と
it
思っ
and
てや
gave
っ
it
て
a
みたわ
try.
けよ。
And it was
そうし
fun.
たらもう
Oh, so it was a date. Yo feels a stab of envy. Koji and Omi enjoy their time together like normal lovers do. That's certainly not something to be jealous of. It's just that Yo's luck has been bad.
ふーん
I
私
want
も
to see
見て
Omi
みた
Chan
いな
skating too.
大見ちゃんがスケート
Yo keeps her voice upbeat, trying to cover up her inner conflict. Yo knows that she mustn't be envious or blame luck. She has a special person too. It's because of the terrible tragedy that befell him that he doesn't spend any time with her. His is true misfortune, the sort that makes unluckiness pale in comparison.
だからさ、ね、
So,
今
how
度の
about
ス
it?
キー旅行
If we make the
つ
next
いで
ski
に
trip
スケ
a
ート旅
skating
行に
trip?
しちゃえば2倍美味しく
Oh, I
楽しいって
forgot how to
わ
say
けよ。
words. If we make the next ski trip a skating trip too, it'll be twice as fun. I'm recording this with probably bad audio levels. I'm gonna adjust it in post. But the character speaking is actually louder than my own voice to me, which is throwing me off when I read at the same time as they're speaking. But let's continue.
でもさ
But you can skate at a
スケ
skating
ー
rink,
トは
can't
スケ
you?
ートリンクに
Why
行け
go all the
ば
way
でき
to
る
a
じゃ
ski
ない
resort?
だから屋
I don't
内
want to
じゃな
skate
くてさ、
indoors. I want to be
屋外スケー
outside
ト
where I can skate
凍っ
on
た
a lake or
湖とかで
something.
滑れるところ。
そんな
Will
都合のいいと
will
こ
it be that easy?
あるかな
I think it'll be pretty crowded.
なんだか
While speaking, Yo sneaks a sideways glance at him. Although the conversation has only involved Koji and Omi, with Yo supporting their lively banter, there are clearly two couples sitting at the cafeteria table. In other words, Yo's boyfriend, though there's still some doubt over whether he could be called that, is also sitting with them.
なあ、ふみの
Hey, Fuminori, what do you think? Maybe Koji sensed the pain in Yo's heart in his usual quiet and considerate way.
どうって
About what? The cause of Yo's distress, Sakisaka Fuminori, responds to Koji's sudden query with a vague, mumbled question of his own.
いやだからさ今年の
We're talking about this winter's ski trip. You're coming too, right? Koji speaks gingerly, as though probing a tumor. A few months ago, he wouldn't have hesitated to firmly rebuke Fuminori for his attitude. Their long acquaintance has forged a friendship that needed no restraint.
わからない
I don't know, Fuminori responds bluntly, his downcast eyes and sullen demeanor making it clear that he has no desire to break his silence.
何か他の予定で
You
もある
have
の
other plans?
いや別に
Not in particular. Even Koji, who should be Fuminori's best friend, cannot communicate with him as he could before. It should go without saying that Yo can't find a thing to say. The scars left by the events of that late summer day are still deep months later. Each of the four bears them, not only Fuminori. What a mystery over what happened.
なあ、別に
Hey,
運動す
it's
るの
not
が
like
傷に
physical
触ると
activity
か
could
そう
affect
いう
our
わけでもない
injuries,
の
right?
どうだろうな。
I'm not sure. I'll ask the
今日
doctor
の診療
during my
で
checkup.
先生に聞いてみる。
As though that answer drained the last of his patience, Fuminori bolts out of his chair.
おい、ふみ
Hey,
のり
Fuminori. Even Koji can't keep his voice from rising a little as he tries to stop Fuminori from leaving. Fuminori reacts swiftly, throwing his hand over his face as though trying to shield himself from something terrifying. Maybe some spittle flew inadvertently from Koji's mouth, but that's the sort of thing that happens occasionally during everyday conversation. At least there wasn't even enough spit for Yo to see clearly. Certainly nothing you need to frantically protect yourself from. Even if he was spit on, Fuminori's reaction was extremely unpleasant.
だから今日も診療なんだ。
Like I
もう
said,
時間だから。
Fuminori snaps, making no attempt to relieve the discomfort of his friends. Today's my checkup. I have to go. Even as he tosses money onto the table, presumably to pay for his coffee, he acts as he's touching something filthy.
それじゃあ。
Later. With a hurried stride that makes it seem as though he's running away, Fuminori leaves the cafeteria. Still cloaked in heavy silence, the remaining three lower their gaze to the table, where the abandoned 10,000 yen bill sways forlornly. Looking closely, they see that Fuminori's coffee is untouched.
やってられないわね。
Omi sighs. I can't take this anymore, but Koji shakes his head reproachfully.
ふみのりには
I think Fuminori
もう少
just
し時間が
needs a
必
little
要なん
more
だと思う。
time.
だってもう
But
3
it's
ヶ
been
月
3
よ。
months. What's with this
なんなの
attitude?
よあれ。
I feel like I'm
付
going
き合
to
って
go
るこっ
crazy
ちが変
hanging
にな
out
り
with
そう
him.
よ。
俺だってわからない。
Hey, I don't get it
わかる
either,
はずもないと思
but
う
I。don't think there's any way I can. So if you guys haven't been following the characters so much, these are the two that are dating. Yo, the other girl, is the one that wants to bang our protagonist, Fuminori.
お前だって想像つくか？
Can you imagine what it would be like to lose your family in such a horrible way? That'd
平
screw
気でいら
anyone
れる
up.
わけないよ。
It was a tragedy that could have happened to anyone. A tractor trailer flipped over, crushing the Sakisaka family car into twisted scrap. They said it had even been difficult to tell the corpses of Fuminori's mother and father apart. For a while, it had looked as if there was no hope for Fuminori's survival. That he was able to leave the hospital and return to his life was nothing short of a miracle.
見舞いに行った時なんて
He was
もっ
worse
とひどか
when
った
we
じゃ
went
ない
to see
か。
him in the hospital, remember?
誰が誰
He
か
was
も分からずに
terrified of us,
怯
like
え
he
て
didn't
暴れ
know
て
who we were,
ベ
and
ッドに
freaked out
縛り
so
付けられ
bad
た。
he had to be tied to the bed.
今は
I'm just glad
よ
he
く
made
あ
it
そ
this
こまで
far.
立ち直ってくれたと思う。
It's nice when friends visit you in the hospital. Also, hospital food is actually really good. You wouldn't necessarily expect that, but that's the experience I had at least.
それにしたって変よ、咲坂くん。
There's still something
私たちの
strange
こと
about
見る
him.
目つき。
What's with the
あ
way
れ
he
何
looks
な
at
の？
us? It's
ま
like
る
we're
で
not
こっちが
human.
人間じゃないみたい。
よせ、オミ。
Cut it out, Omi, Koji says forcefully, his words of restraint probably less out of empathy for his friend than out of consideration for Yo. Yep, there's Yo. While Koji's kindness makes her happy, Yo also knows that, as Koji says, she mustn't depend on it. Fuminori is the victim. He's the one who most deserves sympathy. Yo's feelings for Fuminori are her problem, and no one else's. She doesn't blame Fuminori for not responding to her immediately after she finally worked up the courage to confess to him. In fact, she thinks even more fondly of him for a serious consideration of her feelings than she would have had he given a quick, casual answer. Assuming that just because Fuminori didn't turn Yo down, they were essentially a couple, Koji and Omi have had plenty of fun at their expense. However, he still hasn't given her an answer. That is not a good sign for you, Yo. After revealing her feelings to him, Yo didn't see Fuminori again until a week later, and then she could only stare at his severely wounded body through the window of the ICU. And when he was finally released, after 50 days that seemed like an eternity, he was somehow different. She's starting to doubt that he even remembers what she confessed to him before the accident. That's a reasonable thing to be concerned about. But of course we remember from Fuminori's narration that he did say one person wanted to be something more, so yeah, he remembers, yo. Now winter is coming, with her feelings still hanging in the air. He's probably not gonna go for her now, with the way everything looks to him. To Dr. Tenbo Ryoko, there is no patient more troublesome than this young man. Has there been any progression since then, Sakisaka-san? No, there haven't been any problems to speak of. His voice is hard and flat, his words tossed carelessly into the air. It is as though he's speaking to himself in an empty room. Even without the training of a psychiatrist, Ryoko can clearly sense the thickness of the wall he has erected between himself and the world. Have you experienced nausea, dizziness, or auditory or visual hallucinations? No, nothing. That's how it works. You gotta lie to your psychiatrist. While Sakisaka appears to be looking at Ryoko, his gaze is actually aimed a fraction down and to the side. He's only superficially engaged in a conversation that he has no interest in. Perfect rejection. Realizing that she can't interview him like this, Ryoko sighs and sets aside her chart. Sakisaka, the treatment you received at this hospital was the absolute latest in neurosurgery. You know this, right? Elimination of subdural hematoma through the use of micromachines, a treatment available in Japan only at this T University Medical Center, had been the only way to save Sakisaka Fuminori from a cerebral contusion that should have been fatal. As it's a brand new treatment, we're still gathering data on it. This means that it carried risks. No doubt. Sakisaka Fuminori's lips twist slightly in what might be a bitter or mocking smile, but it's gone before Ryoko can discern its meaning. I've had that experience with the psychiatrist, actually, the whole, wait, what does that smile you're smiling right now mean thing? Okay, going on. Normally, it wouldn't be a problem for a doctor to frighten her patient like this, but there have been reports of serious brain disorders post-surgery. We must continue to monitor your condition carefully. This is why he has been coming in for weekly checkups. Ryoko would like her patient to take them a little more seriously, though. How was last week's MRI? Sakisaka asks abruptly, as though trying to catch Ryoko off guard. MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, is a way for neurologists to examine the brain in detail without opening the patient's skull. Surprised by Sakisaka's uncommon technical knowledge, Ryoko recalls his profile. I really don't think that knowing what an MRI is constitutes uncommon technical knowledge, but, whatever, you know. Oh, that's right. You're a medical student. That's my goal, too. I want to go into surgery so I can cut people open and get paid rather than arrested. Oh, also it would be cool. The kind of cerebral dysfunction you're worried about should show up on the MRI, right? Were there any anomalies? No. There was nothing, not the slightest problem. For a procedure with such a low rate of success, the results have been miraculous. However, there is still something bothering Ryoko. Presuming on what might be a doctor's instinct, Ryoko believes that there is something wrong with this patient. She can't shake the feeling that he's hiding something beneath his guarded exterior, some terrible weight on his soul, fear, or perhaps suffering. If it's an inorganic problem, there's nothing she can do, as long as he refuses to explain it. I'm fine, doctor. After all, I'm living outside of the hospital with no difficulty. What problem could there be? She's cute. You know, Sakisaka, continued observation is required after these difficult surgeries. You have to trust us a little more. I suppose you're right. I do want to trust you, doctor. Can I come to you with any problem? Yeah, of course, Ryoko answers, smiling to cover up her irritation at being asked exactly the same question as last week. Well then, let's pick up where we left off. Doctor, have you learned anything about Professor Ogai? Unable to answer, Ryoko hardens the mask of her smile. He asked the same question last appointment, inquiring after someone whom he, an outsider, had no business knowing.
大貝教授のことは
Professor Ogai, what does he have to do with your
あなたの
treatment?
治療とは何
You just told me to trust you, but now you're
い
keeping
きなり隠
secrets.
し事ですか？
There are plenty of patients besides Sakasaka who make things difficult by jumping to conclusion. Ryoko understands that it's not an unnatural reaction when one's life is in question. In Sakasaka, however, she doesn't see the short-sighted impatience that the other patients exhibit. His calm demeanor makes it seem as though he's questioning a suspect in a crime, rather than a doctor.
何分
He left
だ
this
いぶ前
hospital
にこ
some
こを辞
time
めら
ago,
れた方
after
ですか
all.
らね
I never had any
私
contact
個
with
人
him
としても
personally.
交流が
辞めた理由はご
Do you
存
know
知
why
で？
he left?
え
Yes,
おそらく
I
個
believe
人
it
的
was
な事情
personal,
でしょうね
Ryoko answers smoothly with no trace of her earlier hesitation. Having decided at the outset to lie, Ryoko has no trouble doing so with a straight face.
それにしても咲坂さん
But why are you so
なぜあ
fixated
な
on
たはそん
Professor
なに大
Ogai,
貝教授にこだわ
Sakisaka?
るんです
Do you know him?
教授は今失踪中なんです。
Did you know that the professor has gone missing?
いいえ
No. Ryoko realized that her answer was a little too fast. She should have acted more surprised. Fuminori is on top of things with the whole always respond to questions with more questions. That's how you win conversations.
近頃教授の身内の
I've
人間と
recently
懇意
become
にして
close
い
with
まし
one of the
て、
professor's relatives,
その人から
who
調
has
査を
asked me
頼
to
まれ
find
ている
him.
んです。
A relative. Ryoko considers this with a frown.
大貝教授
I
に
don't
援助の
believe
方は
Professor
おられな
Ogai
いは
had
ずです
any
ね
relatives.
おお。
Oh, who
誰
told you
から聞
that?
きました？
それは
It was a
噂
rumor,
話に
Ryoko replies, realizing that she had just said earlier that she'd had no contact with him.
なるほど。
I
そんな
see.
ことが
So
噂になる
Professor
国に
Ogai
は
was famous enough to have
大貝
such
教授は
rumors
有名
floating
人だっ
around.
たわけですね。
まあ一風変わっ
Well,
た
he
人だっ
was
たみたい
apparently
です
an
ね
unusual man.
なのに、
But
誰も彼
no
が
one
大
knows
学を
why
辞
he
めた
left the
理由を知らない
university.
と。
Ryoko falls silent, knowing that this isn't a topic she can brush away with a smile. Sakisaka seems to have finally grasped her mood, however, as his strangely stiff tone softens a little.
先生、
Doctor,
僕は
I
どうしても
absolutely
大貝
must
教授に
find
会わなきゃ
Professor
ならないんで
Ogai.
す。彼がいなくなった
There's
せ
a
いで、
child who's lost
行く
without
当てがな
him.
くなり困ってい
Can't you
る子
help
がい
me?
るんです。
それはむしろ警察の領分なんじゃな
Isn't
いか
this
しら
something the police should handle? Although she says it like it's nothing, the suggestion is actually a risky gamble. If Ogai Masahiko's disappearance becomes a police matter, the university will likely be investigated. And in order to cover up the mess Ogai left behind, the entire faculty will have to work to dispose of the evidence. Oh shit, there's another mystery. What could it be? We'll find out later. And that includes Ryoko herself, of course. However, Sakisaka isn't likely to ask the police to investigate. First of all, his excuse is clearly a lie. They already made absolutely sure that Ogai Masahiko had no relatives who might come looking for him, which is what allowed them to bury the truth of what happened. But still, how did Sakisaka, with no connection to this hospital other than as a patient, learn about Ogai?
咲坂さん
Sakisaka, I'm happy to tell you everything I know. However, there's been no word from Professor Ogai since he resigned
大
last
貝教
April.
授はどこか長
All I
期の
can
旅
think
行
of is
に
that
で
he
も出
must
ら
have
れ
gone
た
on a long vacation
そ
or
の程度
something.
しか想像
そうですか。
I see. Expecting resistance, Ryoko is surprised when Sakisaka backs down. Nevertheless, she's still worried about his condition, and the mysterious link between him and Ogai Masahiko is only making her more uneasy. But as long as he doesn't open up to her, there's nothing she can do. After a brief pause, Ryoko writes progress good on Sakisaka's chart for today.
咲坂さん
About next
それでは
week's
来週の
appointment,
診察ですが
Sakisaka-san. How does 4 o'clock
今日と同じ4時で
again
も
sound? But before she can finish, Ryoko looks up to see Sakisaka already heading out the door. It looks like someone sprayed the walls with pig guts from ceiling to floor, but I know this is just the hospital hallway. What color should the walls of a hospital be? White, of course. It goes without saying that no hospital would ever paint its walls this color, and to the creatures of rotten flesh shambling around me, this hallway probably looks just as white as it should. I know that the walls are really white, and that the piles of meat are really humans. I'm the one with the problem, and it's because I've accepted this that I'm able to lead a normal life. Even if my university's medical department is nowhere near as good as T University's, I'm still a medical student majoring in neurosurgery. I have a basic idea of what has happened to me, though it's hard to believe. Neurosurgery pays a ton. It's like 600 grand annually or something. Intense. This isn't a pathological condition. It's probably some sort of agnosia, or an unknown type of cognitive disorder. I got really happy when the protagonist was talking about having some form of agnosia because, bam, guess who else does? That's right, it's your Let's Play narrator. Prosopagnosia for me, that's the one where you can not tell faces apart very easily. Thankfully, it is not seeing everyone as meat chunks, but, no, it's not close at all. I was gonna say it's close, but that was just out of habit, but no, it's not. The flesh beast called Tenbo Ryoko said there were patients who had developed brain disorders after receiving the same treatment as me, so I guess I'm just another failure. So much for the elite T University Medical School. It makes me want to just laugh in that know-it-all doctor's face. That said, I don't blame the doctors who operated on me. After all, I do owe them my life. I know as well as anyone how low the chance of success was, and that there was no other way to save my life. What it all comes down to is my bad luck, nothing more. The point is that my condition isn't treatable like your everyday mental disease. I have no choice but to live the rest of my life with this disorder. Just like someone adapting to a hearing aid or wheelchair, I must adapt to this nauseating scenery. Of course it's hard. It wasn't easy to resign myself to this fate. But now there's more than just despair. Even for me, there is a single glimmer of hope. Keeping my eyes on my feet so as to see as little of this horrifying world as possible, I hurry home. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood in a house that's much too large for me alone. My parents, even unluckier than me, died in the accident 3 months ago. I couldn't go to the funeral for being in intensive care. My father's business collapsed, but I was left with the house and enough money to live on for a while. I'll just finish mid-school and you're all set financially. Of course I'm sad, but that accident took more from me than just my parents. In fact, being able to live alone and as I please has probably saved me. If they were still alive, my parents would never have allowed me to live with some strange girl, after all.
おかえり。
Welcome home. Now, this strikes me as the #1 douchiest, most cliffhangery spot to cut episode 1 of this Let's Play off at. So that is what I'm gonna do. Tune in for episode 2, coming soon, and I hope you are enjoying Sayonara so far. So far, we are just getting to know the characters, but who is this mysterious girl? Will hero protagonist stop being so insane? Will he become more insane? Why are there other characters? What do they have to do with anything? Does that psychiatrist find out this guy's actually really fucked up? Tune in next time, and we probably won't find all that out next episode, but some of it at least. Hope you guys are ready, and catch you then.